I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior vs. Zombie, and I can't be more excited about the guest that I have here today, Tracy Repchuk, and I'll introduce her to you in a minute. But before we do, let me talk to you about Warrior vs. Zombie in case this is the first time you've joined us. As a warrior, success is a journey, it's not a destination. We all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point and provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life. Entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value, and a vision that goes generations into the future, and today's guest is no exception. Tracy Repchuk is a warrior's warrior. She's a world-class coach, internet marketing expert, social media expert, speaker, best-selling author, TV host, and philanthropist. Tracy began her warrior journey over 35 years ago at the age of 19 when she started her software company. Since 1985, she has become a 9-time international best-selling author of books like 31 Days to Millionaire Marketing Miracles. She's a world-renowned speaker in over 37 countries. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, writer, and has received awards from the Senate, Assembly, the White House, and President Obama. Tracy is an internet pioneer on many levels, develops brands, websites, SEO, and now social media since 1994. Currently, she is an invited member of the Forbes Coaching Council, Amazon influencer, and a LinkedIn advisor. She is a featured expert and trusted resource for technology, internet, and social media in over 22 national and local TV markets on networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. And she's appeared in Forbes over 25 times and is featured in 3 motivational movies. Now, I'm wore out already, Tracy, but how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Oh, now I need a break. Hey, let me ask you this. I happen to know a little bit about your story, and I realized we're working together on a pretty exciting project that I'll talk about, or I'm sure we'll talk about before we're done here. But tell me about Las Vegas. You were just in Vegas, I think, last week or whatever, and you also, I think, were there before they shut it down. So I'm really kind of fascinated by that. We were talking a little bit before we started here, and just so how does the world look to you now that you've seen kind of that contrast?
Yeah, it was fascinating, really, because, you know, just weeks before that, you'd heard this buzz about COVID and things of that nature, and you saw things going around. And then I got this, this feeling that this huge shutdown's coming. And my husband was actually in Florida. So I contacted him and I said, you have to come back now. Everything's about to shut down and you need to come back. Well, we couldn't even fly him back to Los Angeles at that moment. So we had to fly him into Vegas, and I drove to pick him up. It's very interesting. So we drove, he lands, we book a hotel. We figure we'll stay a couple days since we're there. And the next day they announced that the lockdown has occurred and everything shut. And when you're in a place like Vegas, the word everything is shutting is like seeing, the world implode in one moment. And all the hotels evacuated, all the casinos were black and dark, and you'd be walking through with these little lights, just kind of like an airline runner, and that's all you got type of thing. All the restaurants, everything closed. Everyone was told to get out of the hotels. You had till the next day to do it. And I just sat there and we were filming and doing Facebook Lives and that from, the bridges and stuff. As you look to an empty street in Las Vegas, the strip was empty. And it was, really a telltale of things to come. And of course, I get home after that, and that is, typical. I go into my typical assessment of what happens now.
Wow. And so then we'll talk a little bit about, probably navigating your story. I'm sure that's become one of the things that's kind of crazy. It's kind of like a lot of major events that have occurred in our lives. And I have a little more history, I think, than you, but we've both seen a lot of stuff, and things become part of our journey. There are things we experience on the way. So you were just out there last week. So how does that contrast to when you left? I know it's not 100%. Was it mostly back?
Yeah, it was interesting because I had actually been back before I went last week. I had been back probably a month before that. And the month before that, it was open. I mean, hotels were still sparse, restaurants were still sparse, but face masks were not required. They were optional. And so everybody was wandering around Vegas without a face mask. Fast forward now to me going last week. And most things are still, shut. There's major hotels that are still not open. Restaurants are, operating at small capacity. But the thing that shocked me the most was the diligence now of the face mask rule, in that I've never seen so many security guards in my life, and all they were doing was telling you to put your face mask back on if it slipped off.
Wow. So, but you live in California, right? I'm in Texas. You're in California. Is it worse than California?
Well, California is still extremely bad. We're practically living in lockdown. We don't have restaurants open. Nothing's open. We still have you can get delivery and things of that nature, but nothing is back to, back to even operational. I still can't get my hair cut, and things. And so I thought going to Vegas was going to be a great relief from the face mask and everything, and it wasn't. And in fact, here, at least when we're at the pool, we can have our face masks off. And there we couldn't. So, you're sitting around, the gorgeous Bellagio resort with suffocating behind a face mask while you're sweating. And it actually made it not fun. It was the first time I'd been at this place and thought, this isn't an enjoyable experience. And so it's, I can't wait for that element to change, because it's one thing to be walking around, but we were already 6 feet apart of everybody else. But no, it cannot come off your face at any time.
That is interesting. Yeah. I actually was in Mexico not too long ago, and the masks on the beach and the pool were not required, but yeah, masks were required everywhere else. So it was pretty tight.
Yeah, I understand it in a public place, like what I consider, we're going in a mall, we're going in grocery shopping, we might pass people, but yeah, it was a harder one to swallow.
Yeah, it seems a little extreme to me. Just because, again, I get not wanting to infect anybody else, not wanting to pass it along, try to avoid it. If you're in a crowded place, makes a reasonable amount of sense. But yeah, when you're sitting outside by yourself with nobody around, and you got to have a mask, they come over and tell you to put a mask on.
Yeah, security is there. Yeah. And what's interesting though, and here was what I'll call, I don't even know what you call it, irony of it. The people that didn't have to wear masks were the girls, with the plumes and no outfits out in the street. They didn't have no mask on because you were taking pictures constantly, right? Nobody cared about that. And nobody seemed to care that, we're all touching the same slot machine, right? So it was just, is like, okay, someone's on. It's when it's convenient to somebody.
Yeah, it's called selective enforcement, I guess, is really what it is.
That's right.
We're old enough and have seen enough things to know that, that's part of life and part of what we have to deal with. Well, we've had an awesome check-in. You know what I'm going to do? I think that I really want to get into your story Tracy, I want to hear you've got such a robust and a 35-year journey. I mean, you were part of the internet before the internet was even a thing. And I know I was there too. So I do have a frame of reference. You and I traveled similar paths, just different angles in the similar time frame. So anyway, we're going to come back with Ricky Jean Wright and hear a little bit of It's Not the Getting There. And then I want to hear your story and hear how you got to be where you are today. So with that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with Warrior versus Zombie and Tracy Repchuk.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's
all right, we're back with the second segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Tracy Repchuk, and we just had a great check-in segment and talked about Las Vegas and changes there, and a lot of stuff with the environment and a lot of things on the journey that are still in the process of changing and today's environment. But before we get started, we're going to hear about Tracy's story, but I want to thank our sponsor, Be Connected, where entrepreneurs connect. Get in on the ground floor of a premier hub for successful warriors. Be Connected empowers warriors from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, home-based and small business owners, CEOs, and founders, enabling them to connect and collaborate and to create a larger impact in the world. Check us out now and see how you can thrive as we move forward out of the pandemic at BeConnected.com. That's BeKonnected.com, and use special code MyVisionWarrior. All right, Tracy, we're back, and I can't wait. Tell us your story. How did you get here? How was this 35 years? I know you can't cover everything, but share with us some of the high points.
Well, I mean, first off, when I started, or I was in college at the time, and I was about to graduate, and one of my professors pulled me aside, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I was a computer programmer. I graduated with a degree in IT, and so I said, "I guess I'm just going to go to Toronto and be a programmer." And he said, "Oh no." He said, "You're dynamic, you're outgoing, you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur." And it's interesting because that's the first time I'd ever heard that word. It's not in my background. It's not in our family history whatsoever. And so I said to him, "Well, what's an entrepreneur?" And he said, "Well, it's when you find a need and fill a gap." And so it's a very interesting thing because I went home that day, like already now convinced I'm not going to be a programmer. I'm not going to put out my resume. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Where's the gap? And I started going through newspapers and I started looking for scenarios that might be a reveal or a tell for me on what could I do. And I actually immediately found something, and that was a nonprofit agencies were having to spend $5,000 a month to submit their reporting on a monthly basis to the government. And I said, well, why don't we just get the equipment in-house and do that, right? Because as you know, 1985 was when the microcomputers and PCs were just coming out, and then even though it was $25,000 for a computer and $8,000 for a printer, that was still going to be like a 6-month ROI with $30,000 worth of accounting software and my services. So I pitched this to a company after sourcing prices and things of that nature, and they actually bought. So I had started my company before I graduated. So I was actually 18. When I graduated, I was 19, and that's when I officially started to work with this first company. And then took it to every direction possible because, technology is a raging river from that moment on.
Wow. And so then after you got started there, then you got, because you've been into all kinds. 1985, actually, it's an interesting thing. That was when GM acquired EDS, and it was a key date in there. It's also when Microsoft came out with the Microsoft or the PC, or
That's right.
IBM came out with the IBM PC.
Yeah, Dawson.
Yeah, and we had DOS and all that
That's
stuff,
right.
right? So I'm old enough that I remember that as well.
Yeah.
So where did it go from there?
Well, so that was the beginning of it, but it's interesting. You talk about kind of the zombie versus warrior, right? I remember the day that I told my mom that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and she cried. She said, "You're flushing your education down the toilet. You know, it's going to be a disaster. You can't do that." And things of that nature. So, you know, it's interesting how, you know, you have to be your own best cheerleader most of the time. And so I really had to overcome that immediately and step into that next spot. So, you know, fast forward, we start the software company. I started it actually with my college boyfriend at that time. So he comes on board because he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to be an entrepreneur." And so he said, "Well, okay, I'll do that with you." And I said, "Okay." So, you know, he joins me, we start the company, and then, you know, we become hugely successful really, really quickly. You know, like 3 years, we're already, you know, booming. We're doing major contracts for the government and banks and things of that nature. We've got, you know, Lottery Corporation becomes one of our clients. And so we're doing really well and everything's perfect. It's the honeymoon stage. He asked me to marry him. We're getting married. And then 2 weeks before the wedding, he tells me he got somebody else pregnant and he's marrying her. So becomes a bit of a, you know, a baseball bat to the head moment. And we're in business together. We're partnered in this company. So, you know, lots of things to overcome in those moments. And so really, you know, we continued the company a little bit like that until, you know, I did something even more stupid, which was rush into a rebound marriage. And so, you know, I started down this path. I realized 3 months in, he was extremely angry. There was a lot of aggressiveness, and as I attempted to leave during that process, you know, it was extremely fraught with a lot of drama. And as a result, though, he turns around and he's fighting me for 50% of the company. Well, in that same process, my business partner turns around and does the same thing. So literally I have two men stripping me apart of everything that I had built up until that time. So, you know, lots of ups and downs to become who I am, to move forward, to have the empathy and to be able to be strong enough to be a woman in many of the firsts that I did accomplish during those years. So ultimately, I brought in a different partner and bought him out. And so we were starting at a massive deficit during that time because he had buried the company into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, took all the money. And the worst part from there was we had all these projects on board. We had major clients on board, and they had paid for services that had not been delivered. And so, because I got locked out of the company, I got all the credit cards shut down from husband and from business partner. And so, it's a very interesting. A lot of times people look at you today and think, oh, what a great journey that must have been. Everybody's got their story, and I think it makes you very aware of zombies, people that can attempt to take away what you were destined to do. And so that became an extremely difficult time to emerge from. But what I did learn during that was, I think, ultimately, one of the biggest zombies you'll ever face is the one between your ears. I had lost confidence. I had been, I had just been stripped of the ability to believe in myself and to trust myself, and all of those things. And so I think one of the biggest success strategies I implemented was really spending almost 15 years getting rid of all of the all of those things, all of the zombies from your head, if you want to call them that. And so, of course, makes life very easy to live now.
Yeah, it's I so love to hear warriors because it's one thing that we all go through, and that is we've all had our zombies. We've had the things. It's never an easy road. Success is about overcoming obstacles, and the one that you just described is pretty massive. I mean, I've had warriors that have, they talk about cancer like, oh yeah, I had cancer. I've heard, yeah, I was raped. I've got, I have all these things that warriors, but we learn, and that's the beautiful thing. And you're clear. It's so clear that you are, is that, yeah, you embrace the fact that it did rock you and changed your thoughts in your head, created some zombies, but you have to keep going. You have to keep pushing forward, and it's very obvious that you've done that. And looking at it from this standpoint, so keep going. Tell me, this is I'm loving this. This is, you're definitely helping the warriors out here, because sometimes, yeah, because sometimes we think, well, I'm the only one going through this, and that's not it at all.
Well, and again, so yeah, if you've been through divorce and things of that nature, it's extremely traumatic. It shakes everything, and then and from there. So what's great is in comes my new business partner and now husband of 27 years. So we've worked side by side 24/7, and that has been a glorious chapter. And so during that rebuild, where we were a software company for probably 15 years, and then, I see the next trend emerging, and that, of course, became, the World Wide Web, the information superhighway. I saw that, well before it became called the internet. And so I invested heavily right off the bat. I remember going to a bookstore, and I must have spent close to $700 on every book I could find on this, because really didn't exist quite yet. I couldn't just pop on and get what I want, right? Yahoo and Mozilla and Netscape and all of those hadn't quite gotten into play, just yet. And so I examined all these books, and I said to my business partner and husband, this is it. This is the next wave. We have to shift all resources to this. So at the time, we have 15 programmers, and we start to change our direction to incorporate. And that's where we start to get Walmart and JCPenney and Home Depot and bigger clients even again, as part of the company emergence into internet marketing, and where I started to develop websites. I get into the HTML code, and I'm in my happy place, because people think I'm the outgoing salesperson speaker, but in fact, I could just sit at home and do, play with nuts and bolts. So I think that was the next major motion point from there. So if you have questions about that, I'll go there until I hit the next spot.
Well, the internet, that's fascinating, because I remember that time frame where it really wasn't, it was still a concept. I was working in large corporate, and we were looking at it, and local area networks was just starting to become a thing, right? And then, so yeah, the whole concept. And then, so what I'm fascinated by is the fact that you were able to see that and make that call and make that pivot, because a lot of companies along the way don't make those changes, don't see those things.
Right. Exactly. And so, of course, in we go all in, right? I'm like, okay. And so our software resources are building internet-based software. We're connecting everything to the internet, and we're transacting that way. I'm building shopping carts within our company. And so it was a very, exciting time, as everything was coming so rapidly. Technology was coming rapidly. It was growing like crazy. It was just such an exciting thing, because we could get data online, and it was starting to come in, and you felt like your whole world had completely and utterly opened up. And then, move forward. I'm accelerating in this arena. And then once again, the internet does a change from a brochure-based information center to, holy mackerel, this could be the world's largest advertising medium, right? So I then move into internet marketing. And in 2005, I attend my very first internet marketing event, right? And it was by a company called the World Internet Summit. I go and I see now where the internet is on a broader scale globally. And I said, oh my God, I have to be an internet marketer. This is what's going to have to happen. And so again, I flew down to the US to attend that event. I fly back home to Toronto and I tell my husband, we're moving. We're going to California. We're moving down to the US and we're going to start up an internet company in the US type of thing. So, and, there's a lot of backstory to how do you make that moment happen. But I do. And I literally get down to the US. I got my 3 kids. We're living in an apartment on the floor while my husband closes everything back in Canada for us and closes the house sale. And we had to sell everything. We couldn't bring it over. He sells everything and we start from ground zero here. This is one of my favorite parts of the journey, so to speak, because I go back to my roots and I say, I need to find the gap and fill it. So again, I saw from these internet shows, everybody was going and they were 16 men over 4 days. That was the model. And so 2 things occurred there. One, I said, I'm going to get on that stage as a woman. But then I saw from that the gap. And the gap was the sequence, the logical sequence of what do you do first? You find your target market, you build the landing page, you do the emails, you do this. There was a logical sequence. And again, my logical brain of being a programmer, plus by that moment, I was also a certified management accountant. I applied the skills of logic and moved those in and created the book, 31 Days to Millionaire Marketing Miracles. I launched the book and it goes to #1 on Amazon. And this was back in, 2006 when there was no Kindle, there was no print on demand. There was buy 5,000 books, store it in a warehouse, ship it to Amazon for each order, etc. And so I went to #1 back in the hard days. and as a result, people started to phone me and say, can you take me through the book? Can you coach me through the book? So then I added coaching to the company, right, which I was newly building. And so I had made 6 figures in a few months from charging $10,000 a person and to coach them through the book. And then that organization, World Internet Summit, caught wind of this. They saw I had like a #1 book. They saw I'd made 6 figures. I was in internet marketing. And they call me from Australia and tell me that I've won New Internet Marketing Success of the Year. So they fly me, all expenses, from California to Singapore to appear on my very first stage in front of 3,400 people. So that launched that dream speaking career that you kind of see, because from that, they signed me up. I was the first woman to win the award. I was the first woman on the stage to appear with those 15 men. I spent 5 years traveling the world in that capacity. And of course, during that, I was the #1 woman speaker in the world for internet marketing because I was the only one doing it. So it set so much in motion, that huge risk take. But more importantly, again, I saw kind of the writing on the wall.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's always when you compress everything into it just seems like it was just magical. But I'm sure there's had to be a lot of things that popped up along the way. But you seem to have, at least in retrospect, hearing the story, it seems like you kept charging forward and you had a lot of clarity in terms of what it was, your vision of you being on the stage with those 15 people and you seeing the things unfold with internet marketing, and you've seen, you very much, I always look for that with entrepreneurs myself in terms of the ones that I want to become a warrior with. And it's ones that really have clarity of vision, or at least they're willing to work to get it. And then you move forward. So that's fascinating. So internet marketing, and we'll get into what you're doing right now. Are we getting close? Are we getting close to
I
that?
mean, honestly, it's just more unfolding. During that time, it's more unfolding of the successes that you've heard, getting on TV, more books, more speaking. I spoke at the Global Leaders Economic Summit in China, again, the only woman keynote, talking about the social consciousness of technology, which, you don't really talk about in China, but that was the topic that they had approved. And it was, so all of these fascinating, awesome experiences come along the way as you're building credibility, as you're building authority, as I'm kind of growing within that field. And until the point where, we almost are today.
Well, that's great. Well, that's a really fascinating story. And I do know enough about what you're doing today to know that a lot of those things are still very present in your current business and practice. But I also want to give us some time to hear about what you are doing today, why you're doing it, and the value that you see yourself providing. Again, I have some exposure to that. I see a lot of value in what you're doing. And then so let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. We'll hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright, and it's not the getting there. And we'll be right back with Tracy Repchuk, and we'll hear about where you are today and where we're going.
It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom...
All right, we're back with the third segment of Warrior versus Zombie, and wow. All I can say is wow. We've had quite a journey just riding with Tracy and how she got to where she is today. But I know we can't wait to hear some of the exciting things she's got going today. So Tracy, tell us about that.
Well, it's kind of fun, right? I'm in an exciting place of change and transition. Now, it was obviously precipitated by COVID and the global lockdown, kind of in early March for us. But what's interesting is I'd been in this situation before in 2003 when SARS hit Toronto. We were locked down. And so when an external force like that hits my universe, I take a good look at where I am and what I'm doing and where do I want to be and how do I get there. So I, again, tore my company down to all its pieces. And I said, what do I want to be doing in this new economy? I had lost all my speaking gigs, and that was a big part of what I do. And part of my evaluation strategy is, okay, I can't depend on speaking anymore for income, and it must be just a pure joy activity. And in the process of doing this, I actually got a call from my friend Tanya Hoffman, who said, hey, I'm developing this search engine that takes, kind of the power of a dating algorithm app and combines it with a search engine process to directly connect you to leads. Would you like to be one of the coaches on this platform? Well, I was immediately and 100% in, and for three reasons. The first was I was kind of done. In part of the evaluation, I was done playing the solo sport. It wasn't a solopreneur company. I have staff and all sorts of things, but of being the CEO, of managing staff, being very hands-on with the work and design, and I wanted to be part of a team, something much bigger than I was doing, because it was still going to get to, no matter how hard I worked, because I was unwilling to grow beyond a certain amount of staff, just because I didn't want to manage, I didn't want to be a part of that. I'd already been at a huge staff situation. I was done that. And so I wanted to be part of a team where many people collaborated and created. And so that was the first criteria. The second was I had been waiting 35 years for that type of call. I went through every .com era, the booms, the busts, and you hear about the people getting into the ground of Facebook and the ground of Google and the ground of employee number 3, right? And I was like, I waited for that moment. And when Tanya actually called, I knew that was it. And after she described it, I knew immediately that was a unicorn. It's $1 billion company. And it was for me, a complete and utter prediction along the lines of what I've already been doing. And then thirdly, it matched perfectly to the tasks that I wanted to be doing. What I really love to do, which was coaching and consulting and putting together strategy. And so in the very short time, I went from coach to a executive vice president in charge of marketing, which of course led to all of the activity that I was responsible for our September 1st launch, which was to 24 countries. And now it's like a freight train of motion for me all the time between the websites and the videos and the back end and the marketing funnels and social media and everything to do with managing and overlooking a global marketing system for a company that, again, as I've said, I see this as a unicorn. So it's extremely exciting. And yet I've never worked harder in my entire life. Even going back to the beginning roots, I feel like I've never worked harder. But it's because it's for this game-changing technology for entrepreneurs that I'm so excited about, because it's what we have needed. And especially during COVID, when we can't go to live networking, we can't go speaking, and we can't do all of these things. What was the alternative? Well, guess what? The alternative is here. And so it's so exciting.
Yeah, I can see your excitement, and frankly, it's contagious. And I have the same level of excitement for a lot of the same reasons. Like along the way, like you say, along the way, you've had those kind of things where either you did or didn't have the opportunity to get on the ground floor. Sometimes you don't have the foresight to recognize that it was an opportunity there, but the fact that you can see that, I can see your excitement, and for sure, your role as the EVP of marketing and that has been critical, I think, to the launch of Be Connected. And it's really exciting to think about how we can transform, because it really is the right time. I mean, I know it started before COVID in concept, but it's like anything else. One of my guests, Carl Flowers, actually said, whenever something like a pandemic hits in history, he's a historian, and he said, whenever something like a pandemic hits, trends that were there already get massively accelerated. So people that look at it the way you look at it, and a lot of warriors do, but you seem to be uniquely focused on those doors that are going to open, not really looking back at the doors that are closed and seeing the opportunity. Because I always said with large outsourcing transactions and large change comes large opportunity. I never looked at it as, oh no, how do we deal with this? Because that's just not my mindset, and you're clearly the same way. So tell me a little more. What do you see as the unique value, not only that you provide, but also that Be Connected in this whole market? Give me a little bit of that. Give us a little bit of that in terms of how you see it transforming. I know how I look at it, but.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, as far as my unique value is concerned, it really comes from 35 years of being in business, surviving everything along the way, learning skills and applying them in a way that I always do a proof of concept, first with myself and then with the clients before I start to teach it in a mass basis. And it comes down to, I don't teach or talk about something until it's backed by proven science or a formula that, I've developed actually, that I've been a part of. So I think one of the biggest things is when it comes to, someone like myself, what would be unique about me is I think the range and scope of experience that I've had that can apply to something. You know, when someone wants to go to number one on Amazon or get on TV or build a marketing funnel and landing page or website branding, affiliate marketing, product launching, product development, online courses, LinkedIn, publicity and PR, how to make 6 figures in a day, 7 million in a year, that type of thing. It's a very broad range that I can help you with and get you to the next level of your business. And of course, being able to apply this range, not just to clients, but now in the case of almost an Uber client, right? Scenario, I don't know many people that can, just kind of put in that level of experience and really provide a roadmap that can change on a dime as that person or client changes too. Because all of a sudden we could be going down one path, something happens to somebody and the path changes, and I'm like, no problems, relax, we're okay. We'll just do this, right, to counteract, because I've been through most of the things that can occur from that perspective. And of course, I obviously think Be Connected is extremely unique in that sense as well, because sure, we have search engines, we have dating apps, we have social media platforms, but this one has come in with a perspective of we're a paid platform in which you want to make a connection. You're looking, you're seeking, that other person is agreeing to that connection. We make the connection, we rate the connection, so that constantly we're up-leveling the quality of people that are willing to serve and give at the same time as they're kind of showing themselves to high quality, high level people that are also of the same mindset that, paying for a platform and being a part of something bigger is the good way to go. And the other reason I really like Be Connected is, social media platforms in general, you're the product, right? In the case of Be Connected is the product. The connection generator is the star of the show. When I'm on LinkedIn, I'm the product, and the advertiser is selling to me and promoting. Facebook is a master of making me the product. If you've ever been on there at all and you're flicking through a few things at a time, every single algorithm they have is about, wow, she stayed, 8.7 seconds on that particular image. Let's feed up another 50 like it and insert 7 ads in the meantime, right? They have got it down to a rocket science on not connecting me with anybody, on keeping me on their platform so they can promote to me. So it's a completely different mindset. That's a disruptor in kind of the economy, that when people understand that they're the product on the social media platforms and here the product is connection generator, that's where the whole game changes.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And I think we've had this conversation, at least kind of indirectly through some of the conversation, but we're still very much in the innovator stage. If you do understand the diffusion of innovations curve, and I have an MBA from Wharton. I've been hearing all this crap forever, and the reality of it is it's so new, but yet it's so powerful, and it is such a disruptor in the whole process, because we're not the beautiful thing. And again, once you said something very important, which is once people understand. The challenge right now is for them, because they've been their own zombie. And zombie is not necessarily a bad thing, but their own habits, their own mindset is tied up in what is Facebook, what LinkedIn does, what other platforms have done. And you're exactly right. They're done with them as the person to be sold to. And here, the connection generator is the way that we connect real people doing real business on their terms, which is something once the market gets aware of that, it will just explode. So I just think it is so fascinating. And it is, the other thing that by the way, I want to say is, from your history, from all the things, all the stuff that you have that's available if people do the full Be Connected thing in the back office that you've put in there of your own intellectual property, to me is just blows me away. Because literally people could just come in and move their business online, and maybe they haven't been, but they need to now, and they could come in and for almost no price, $2.99. I mean, it's almost, I'm almost ashamed to say it. It's so minimal as investment. All of a sudden, all this stuff that's been developed over the years and has been out there generating thousands of dollars of revenue and value, and even more value than that, is there available to the market. So once people figure that out, it's just the sky's the limit, and that's kind of why I was excited to have you on the podcast here. So what else? Anything else? If anything were possible, where would you go with this? Yeah, that's the thing I want to hear. What's your vision? Because I know you're looking beyond today.
Well, first off, I believe anything is possible, right? It's a matter of learning the skills and effectively applying them to achieve the goal. I don't have any limitations from that perspective in thinking or what can a person achieve. It is merely coming up with the vision, right? The dream and the goal. So where I am going goal-wise is a completely passive income stream so that I can spend my time traveling around the world to help to improve others, whether that be entrepreneurial or just, kind of the planetary betterment in nature, and I'm not sure what that looks like exactly. Is it building schools? Is it speaking? Is it TV? Is it changing policy? Introducing purification centers or spiritual or happiness or live online broadcasting or a combination of those things. And I find that things like that get revealed to me the closer I get there, because I'm on a ramp now, right, which is ensuring the success of the Be Connected platform. And so that's where my head is. But we know my vision is when, not if, but when this becomes the $1 billion and beyond company that I know that it is, and the technology is wholeheartedly embraced, and it just becomes, a standard, right? What are you going to do? I'm going to go be connected, right? It becomes the Kleenex of that type of industry. Then I know that will get revealed to me the closer I need the practical answer of, but it's always going to involve me educating in some way on what I know, what I can do, what I have experienced, and who I can help. And I don't know if that's spiritual, educational, business-wise, or all. But I'm extremely and always excited about my future, because I am actively creating it at all times, and just, part and parcel in the present, 90% in the present, 10% in the future. And that's kind of the way that when you have that little eye there, because we don't know, right? How long is this pandemic and COVID lasting? Are we still in a lockdown stage a year from now? Who knows what travel looks like? I haven't been able to get to Canada, right? Which I'm usually there all summer, kind of caring for my parents. I've been unable to get back up there. And I don't know when I will be able to return. They're still saying another 2 months from now. So, it's an interesting thing. As long as you understand your core elements of where you want to take it, then, kind of that forward motion of anything is possible and what you want it to look like just becomes easier.
Well, that's, I just love it. I love it because what I hear you saying is exactly what I said when I retired in 2005 was I'm going to spend whatever time I have left on the planet not making money. I'm not that I'm against making money, but not just making money, but making a difference. If the money follows, great. But the first thing is going to be making a difference. And I didn't even know what that meant. I was the same way. I didn't know what form that would take. Even today, I can see certain things unfolding. And I really love building community, and that's the thing I love about what you're doing with Be Connected, is it does enable us to intentionally build community amongst people using tools online and not dividing us, but bringing us together. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. And when we come back, we've covered so much ground here. I'd like for you to give our audience a couple of takeaways. If there were anything we took away anything from this podcast, what would you like us to take away? And then we'll talk a little bit about how do we stay in touch with you and get in touch with you going forward. And so let's take a quick break, hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There, and we'll be back with the Land the Plains segment with Tracy Repchuk and Warrior vs. Zombie.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games. The years flew by so fast is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul. And by the grace of
All
God,
right, we're back with the Land the Plains segment of Warrior vs. Zombie and Tracy Repchuk. And man, we have had such a journey here. And as I said before we took the break, Tracy, I want to hear, what would you like if we took away anything from this podcast, from your journey, from our check-in, from anything, or from where we are today? What would you, one or two things, or three, I don't know, you can pick, that would you like the audience, our listeners, to take away from this podcast?
I really often live by these two principles almost. The first is to adopt, embrace, and seek change. It's in this area that your biggest ideas will come. And then the other is kind of know that your dreams are outside of your comfort zone. I live in a free fall state, always doing something that I am not comfortable with. And so, if they were all inside our little comfort zone, more people would be achieving them, right? So be aware that you'll need to move outside of your comfort zone and get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Well, you know what? That is a lesson that we all need to remember, because growth never occurs within our comfort zone, right? It's always outside it, and that's where we find success too. Well, that's brilliant. Any other takeaways, or are you ready to tell us how that we can get in touch with you going forward, Tracy?
I mean, I could talk for days about takeaways in general, right? Just general philosophies of how to live your business, or live your life and live in harmony and create a lifestyle by design. That might be one of them. Create your life by design, especially where we are right now. I'll never forget when I was about to be pregnant, or I was pregnant and about to give birth. And that was the moment where we completely overhauled the company, and we went virtual in 1994. My husband and I moved home, and we operated 15 staff, and this was pre-internet. So it became, I knew exactly what I wanted. I want me and my husband home to raise our 3 children, and that's what I created. And I think when you have the vision, the answers on how you can create that vision will come to you. And so have faith in the process.
Oh, I love that one. Being the vision warrior, you can bet. I love that one. Having clarity of your vision, and then basically not focus so much on how, but just having that vision so that you know what it's going to look like when it starts revealing itself. So that's an awesome thing. So how do we stay in touch or get in touch with you, Tracy, after this podcast? Because I guarantee you there's going to be people wanting to go, okay, I need to connect with Tracy.
Sweet. Well, I'll make it super simple. You can go to fastactionresults.com. It's kind of the gateway. You'll get your free gift type of thing. And then if you use my name almost anywhere on the internet, you'll find either a social media platform or my site.
Well, that's easy, because Repchuk is a lot less common than Roberts. So yeah, it's I know it's easier to find you. So Tracy Repchuk, or what was that website?
Fastactionresults.com.
Fastactionresults.com. Okay. Well, this has been an awesome journey, Tracy. I am so grateful and thankful, and I know the audience is going to love this episode. And I just want to thank you for serving us and being part of this episode. For those of you who found us on your favorite podcast platform, we're on all of them. So Warrior vs. Zombie, you can find us anywhere: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. And I just want to land the plane with one more shout out to Be Connected. That's BEEKONNECTED.com. Use the special code MyVisionWarrior. And with that, let's hear the final segment of It's Not the Getting There with Ricky Jean Wright. And thank you again, Tracy.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know.